Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first thing we have on the agenda tonight is approval of the April 3rd minutes. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second? Second. All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Tonight didn't just start today. This is a culmination of months and months of public input. It is the duty of this commission to listen to input from people that come before us and refer back to the comprehensive plan for guidance in making our decisions. What did the people say they want? It is a tool that every elected official should use to reference as well when making decisions in the future. What does our plan say? Just the vision statement here. Montgomery County will work to provide long-term sustainability by growing our population base to advance the productivity and overall well-being of our community, supporting economic opportunities and being responsible stewards of our rural character and agricultural assets. We will embrace new ideas and diverse opportunities to support the principles of targeted growth, resource management, and economic diversity. We will actively work to build a vibrant future while always honoring the best and strongest parts of our heritage. Our guiding principles: 1. Plan where development should or should not go to encourage growth in appropriate locations while limiting development where it is less desired. 2. Grow the population base in Montgomery County to support long-term sustainability. 3. Develop policies that protect the rural landscape in order to help preserve open space, protect natural resources, support the integrity of prime farmland, and support opportunities to strengthen farm operations. 4. Encourage natural resource protection and conservation by promoting recreational uses and tourism attractions that bring visitor and investments into the county and the region. 5. Focus investment on critical infrastructure by supporting growth and development in the proper and desired locations. 6. Create opportunities by leveraging Montgomery County's key assets and strategic regional advantages. 7. Open communication and civil discourse should define public debate of critical issues for the county. 8. Understand that simply preserving something may not actually best protect its viability in the future. And 9. Realize that if you do not drive your brand, someone else will. Some ask why we're back here so soon after just approving this comprehensive plan. March 26th, the commissioners received a letter from Acuro threatening litigation. If we are going to follow the directive the majority of the citizens of our community want, then we have to do this now before the door shuts on our ability to do so. I'm going to let Dan Taylor, our attorney here, get us lined out as far as the process here this evening, if you would, Dan.
As an advisory plan commission, your job is to review proposals and make recommendations to the county commissioners. The proposed zoning ordinance you have in front of you is simply that, a proposal. Your job is to evaluate it. And you really have 4 options. You can send it with a favorable recommendation as it is proposed. You could send it with a favorable recommendations with changes made to it tonight that you would like to see made. You could send it with an unfavorable recommendation, or if you cannot reach a consensus by majority vote, then you also can send no recommendation to the county commissioner. And I've outlined this procedure in the case report for you. So those are the 4 options you have as an advisory plan commission. The procedure for tonight is that you will conduct a public hearing on the proposed ordinance, which means that you will allow citizens to make comments regarding their position on the proposal. And when they have completed making their comments, then you may have your discussion regarding the proposal. And during that time and in your deliberation and consideration, the law says that you have to consider 5 factors. These are the top of page 2 in your case report, but for the benefit of the audience. Those are 1, the comprehensive plan, 2, current conditions, and the character of current structures and uses in each district. 3rd, the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adopted. 4th, the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. And 5, responsible growth and development. The law says that no one factor means any more than any other factor, and in reaching your decision, and after giving due regard to each, you have to weigh the totality of those factors and decide whether the totality of those factors weighs for a favorable or unfavorable recommendation or no recommendation. As the Plan Commission law in Indiana dictates, it will take 5 votes in order to carry any motion. Now, with 1 member absent, that would be the case, but for the Plan Commission, it always requires a majority of the members eligible to vote, whether they're here or not. So any motion, in order to carry, needs 5 votes from you. So if you have 5 members voting for a favorable recommendation, that goes to the county commissioners. If you have 5 for an unfavorable, that goes to the county commissioners. If you can't reach 5 votes to agree, if you're deadlocked, you can send no recommendation, which means neither negative nor positive. After you make your recommendation tonight, you have to certify that recommendation to the county commissioners, and we have a form that we would have you sign. We have 3 different ones, 1 for each proposal that you can pass, and we will have you sign that after you vote. The zoning ordinance you have in front of you, I'm just going to summarize briefly. I know you've had it for a couple weeks, and it's been available for review, but let me just point out the key things. Indian law says that zoning ordinances have to do 5 essential things in order to be a zoning ordinance. And this proposed ordinance does those 5 things. You have to divide the jurisdictional area into zoning districts. This ordinance does that and delineates an agricultural district, residential district, commercial district, and industrial district, and a planned unit development district. I'd like to explain to you what a planned unit development district is, because you may not be familiar with that, but that is sometimes called a PUD district. And what that is usually a mixed-use district, say a senior living area with some commercial aspects to it, a gas station, a dry cleaners, that sort of thing. Some developers want to do that kind of project altogether. But since that involves commercial uses and residential uses, most zoning ordinances don't allow that sort of mixing of uses. So this Indian law says you have to allow developers some latitude to do this mixed use. And it could be a mix of 2 different kinds of uses, like commercial and residential, or it could be a mix of different kinds of development within a district. So for example, if you had single family next to multifamily, those are 2 different uses, and so that would need to be a planned unit development. Article 7 of the proposed ordinance, which is quite long, provides for a really thorough review of any such district, because what the developer is allowed to do in a planned unit district is write their own zoning ordinance for that district only. They establish the setbacks, they establish how much bricks on the wall, they establish their own ordinance, and they don't have to follow your ordinance. And so planned unit developments are favored in development. They are efficient. They usually give you a good result, but they do require a great deal of review. So those are the 5 districts that are involved in this proposal. You also have to say what is permitted where and what type of development needs a special exception. And this ordinance does that. On the use table, it provides what can be done in each district, what kinds of uses can be done. And it also provides for certain types of uses that need special exceptions. Special exceptions are uses which, because of their nature, you decide, or the county commissioners, the ordinance decides what you need to take a hard look at. And in this ordinance, it requires a special exception for certain industrial uses, and those are wind turbines, wind energy conversion system, waste transfer stations, sanitary landfills, and of course, planned new developments, and by their very nature also get that kind of a load. The fourth thing that you have to do is you must provide for planned new developments, and there is an entire section on that. You also have to incorporate the subdivision control ordinance, and the county already has one of those. The subdivision control ordinance controls when approval is needed when you subdivide land. And the best way to think of subdivision is just when you take a 40-acre parcel and you create 25 lots on it to build houses, that's a subdivision. And then finally, you have to have a zone map, and there is a zone map. It's taken from the comprehensive plan. As proposed, this zoning ordinance will allow everyone to continue using their land the way they are now. This planning map does not propose that any use area will be different from what it's currently using. So that if adopted, the zoning ordinance would grandfather everyone in to their current uses, and they would be allowed under the law as long as they're legal. People could continue to do what they are. In some zoning ordinances, there's a dramatic shift in the zone map where they really say, this area is not agricultural, but we're going to designate it as industrial. This proposal does not do that. It really says, whatever you have existing, that's what we're going to use. The jurisdictional area of this is the unincorporated area of Montgomery County. If adopted, this zoning ordinance would not have any application to the city or any of the towns. This would merely be the local law in the unincorporated area. The ordinance also makes provisions for and restates the law about the Plan Commission. Also, it creates the Board of Zoning Appeals. As I know you know from your training, the Plan Commission hears two types of cases. You are both advisory in one group of cases, and in other group of cases, you are the final decision maker. So let me just talk about that. You are advisory for all rezones, text amendments, and amendments to the subdivision control ordinance. You are also advisory as to any planned unit development district. So those types of cases, you make recommendations to the county commission. If someone comes in and they want to vacate a plat land, replat land, or vacate a plat, you are the final decision makers, and you simply look to see whether the applicant has satisfied the requirements of the applicable ordinances. So you wear two hats. You're a recommending body on the one hand, and you're also, you make decisions on plats. As the ordinance provides, the Board of Zoning Appeals is a review body. They are quasi-judicial, which means they're kind of like judges. They handle three types of cases. They handle administrative appeals. If the zoning ordinance is adopted, the county commissioners would be required to appoint a zoning administrator who would be the staff person who would actually implement and enforce the ordinance. If an applicant for some approval disagrees with a determination made by the zoning administrator, the applicant can appeal that administrative decision to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the question is merely whether the zoning administrator is applying and interpreting the zoning ordinance correctly. That's one thing the Board of Zoning Appeals does. The second is they determine variance requests. If someone wants to develop property and they don't want to comply with your development standards, and this proposed ordinance does not have many development standards, but if they do not want to apply, and the ordinance allows for variance, then the Board of Zoning Appeals hears those cases. And the criteria for variances are outlined in Article 4. And then finally, the third type of case the Board of Zoning Appeals are special exceptions. And special exceptions are similar to variances of use, but a little different. Again, a special exception is a case in which the ordinance determines, the legislative body determines that we need to take a special review and hard look at it to make sure that development doesn't adversely affect others. And so the criteria for that is also in Article 4. The Article 5 provides for the administration and enforcement of the ordinance. Chapter 6 provides for the regulation of wind turbines and wind energy conversion systems. This section is modeled primarily after the chapter from Kosciuszko County. And it would establish strict regulations for the siting and placement of wind turbines in the county. Essentially, it would require them to be in industrial districts as a special exception. So there would be 2 levels of review. One would be a rezone, and if it's more, or not in an industrial district. And secondly, it would be reviewed as a special exception. And then the various development standards, setbacks, and rules for that development are located in Chapter 6. Chapter 7 contains the planned unit development standards, and it's the longest chapter in here. It's mainly procedural rules that safeguard the county. Again, as I mentioned, if we're going to allow a developer to write their own ordinance and ignore yours, you want to have a good process for that, so that's what that does. Now in the staff report, you also find some staff recommendations, and I'll just go through those briefly, and I turn it back over to Mr. Fry. After the zoning ordinance was prepared, staff, which by staff I mean your building commissioner and your health, the director of the health department, and other department heads met with me to see whether there were any things that they saw that were problematic in the proposal. And these changes that are being recommended to you are those. And I've listed those, but one is a change in minimum lot area from 5,000 to 7,000 square feet for a residential home. And the staff recommended that be changed to 7,000 to line up with other counties. And then also that would only apply if the residence was served by a sanitary sewer. That if you need a septic system, you're going to have more land for that. And so the proposal is if a site is not served by sanitary sewer, that then the minimum area is 1 acre. And again, if you've had to apply for a septic permit in this county, like I have, that's about what you'd have to get that approved by the county. So the health department has strong feelings about that. Second, in the provision regarding prohibited contact with the Board of Zoning Appeals in section 4.15, there was a typographical error, and we've asked that be corrected. In section 5.02B, the staff's recommending that language be changed from the septic permit would be submitted to the zoning administrator rather than the planning commission, and that was also just typographical because that's what it should go to. Improvement location permits in section 503. The proposed ordinance provides that no permit is required for lot and yard improvements. And again, a change was made. The proposal is that unless those improvements are over, on, or within 10 feet of a septic system, and if they are utility easement, and if they are, the health department would want to look at that and make sure that the swing set or patio or outbuilding is not going to harm the septic system. The fifth recommendation was for plot plans, and again, it mirrors that language I just mentioned. It would add that any plot plan would also show existing sanitary, sewer, septic systems, water utilities, or water wells. 6, in the violation section, the staff wanted to clarify that if there's a violation that is ongoing, that each day is a separate violation. That's standard language in such provisions. It's what we use to try to get compliance. 7 is a technical change, so again, note that any application for a special exception should be submitted to the zoning administrator, not the planning commission. And then 9 is a height limitation, and both a member of the commission and a citizen in their written comments that they've already submitted noted that the section 6.02 on height limitations was confusing. So staff is recommending that that be clarified. And we've done two things to clarify that. We've reworded 602B, and we've also inserted a table in 603U, which more clearly states what was intended, and that is that the height limitations for micro wind towers would be 120 feet, for meteorological towers 325 feet, and for wind towers 600 feet. Now, number 10, there was also a member who suggested that we needed more detail in the interference with communication section. So staff is recommending that in addition to the listed interference, that we add public safety communications, emergency medical communications, and emergency management communications, and those changes are found in 603G and 605. And then finally, staff is recommending a minor change to the definition of wind farm collection, which is double J in the definition section, and we've just added some language there to clarify what we know as part of those systems. The staff provides those to you, and I have created a version, and it has red at the bottom, which contains all of those changes so that you can see them where they are. And you may adopt any one of those or reject them all. That's completely up to you, but that was, after some more detailed work, some changes that staff thought would be helpful.
The question I have, Dan, do you think these ordinances accurately represent the comprehensive plan?
I think that the proposed ordinance reacts to the part of the comprehensive plan that says that if you have uses that you want to prohibit or regulate, then you should do so in the zoning ordinance.
Thank you. All right, I guess some maybe rules here for this evening. I know this, we just went through this a couple of weeks ago, but we're here to listen. This is not a question and answer from the public. This is a chance for you to speak. This is not debate. We're here to listen. One opportunity to speak, please. Please try to respect everyone's time as well. I guess with that, we'll open the public hearing. Sorry? No? All right, please state your name and address when you come to the podium, please.
Has the draft online been updated with those changes that you just said?
It has not been posted up to date. We finished it today, but we'll have to make it available. The staff report contained these provisions except for the last three.
Okay, I'm just curious because people haven't had a chance to review these changes, so it's kind of hard to speak on something we haven't had a chance to see.
He just right.
My name is Bill Mallon. I live at 5064 North US Highway 231. I am opposed to industrial wind turbines in Montgomery County. I approve of the greatly increased setbacks for industrial wind turbines in your proposed ordinance. Our county is too densely populated for these things to be in our backyard. There's a lot of ignorance about the dangers these industrial wind turbines pose to the health, safety, and welfare and property values of our citizens. And there is a lot of misleading information being published. The No Wind Farms Group will continue to educate the public about these dangers. If someone held a gun to my head and asked me to choose between zoning and no industrial wind turbines, I would choose zoning. Thank you.
And next.
My name is Brock Urban, 630 North Forest Road, Crawfordsville. I would first like to start by saying that if there is a potential lawsuit, I do feel like it is self-inflicted. When Ordinance 2018-26 was passed, I think the likely outcome of that should have been extremely foreseeable, and to me, in my point of view, after passing a noise ordinance that was clearly compatible and give and take with everybody involved, that improved the annoyance issues by lowering the noise decibel level, I feel like coming back 2 months later with that ordinance to kill the agreements was an underhanded blow. I want to say that I am generally in favor of zoning. I think it's a very important step for a community to take for many reasons. But I'm here today to ask that you vote down this zoning ordinance because it would eliminate industrial wind farms as proposed by Apex and Kuo. I understand that you say it's the will of the people, but I also recall a commissioners meeting last year held in the same room where you agreed that the number of people for and against wind farms was about 50-50. It was a conversation actually between you and myself, Mr. Fryer. Add to that the number of people against zoning, and I'm not sure why this ordinance is expected to pass. I understand that to an elected official, the will of the people is of utmost importance. It should be elevated higher than nearly anything else. But there's one thing that an elected official must always hold higher than the will of the people, and that is the good of the people. There are many pros and cons to wind farms. There are valid arguments against wind farms. But when these are weighed against the evidence and the benefits, the pros absolutely outweigh the cons. Locally, wind farms would bring something like $10 million every year into our community. Wind farms are compatible with the 200 years of farming history that has built Montgomery County. For our state and country, wind farms means 21st century jobs, clean energy, and a sustainable environment. Over the past several months of meetings that I've attended, I hope I've made it clear that what I'm fighting for is a future that we can proud to give our kids. Our economy is an important part of that, but that won't mean much unless we also give them food security, water security, home security, health security, and national security. The effects of record-breaking temperatures, increasing flooding and wildfires, strengthening hurricanes, acidifying oceans, coastal erosion flooding, and numerous other changes put these securities in real and known danger. It's everyone's responsibility, especially at the local level, to do our part in fixing the damage we've done. We must not pass that baton to our children as has been done to us. It's time to react. This is Montgomery County's time to react, and it would do us all a world of good. I will leave you with the words of the world's largest and most prestigious science society, the American Association of Advancement of Science. Policymakers can no longer afford to dismiss or ignore the overwhelming scientific evidence of climate change. The science is clear, and we must face the facts in order to address the risks. They are talking to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, everybody. Greg Morrison, owner of Davis Morrison Realty in Crawfordsville, also a member of the county council. And I'm not up here to talk positive or negative on windmills. I'm talking from my aspect from being in commercial real estate and residential real estate and the growth of Montgomery County in favor of zoning. If everybody would look at it as what it is made for, it is a protective measure and not a restrictive measure. And it seems like most of the negatives come from people saying you're restricting what I can do with my land and what I can do. And it's not made for that reason. It's made there for as a protective measure, not only to protect your value, your land and your property, but your neighbor's property. And for us to move forward in the county, dealing with commercial people, everybody thinks it's great we don't have zoning. When the commercial people come here and want to spend a lot of money, they want protected when they buy the land, not to have something that's going to be a detriment to their land later on. So it is necessary for that.
One thing that doesn't come up a lot of times is zoning. If we can get it to go through, you are still a property owner. There is nothing in zoning that tells you you have to sell your land to anybody. You still have the right to do what you want with it, so you don't have to sell it. Probably going to increase, in most cases, it'll increase the value of property because it will open up some opportunities for industrial, residential development and stuff. So what I'm up here for is if people will look at it openly and realize that zoning is here as a protective measure and not a restrictive measure. It is a necessary tool for Montgomery County to move forward and grow.
Thanks, Craig.
My name is Ben Wilson. I live at 7654 South, 600 West. For 12 years, I traveled throughout the Midwest and beyond as a sales rep for an architectural firm. What I saw, the excesses of zoning control, bothers me. As Mr. Morrison said, the purpose of zoning is to protect you. My question is, who's to protect us from the zoning commission? There was a church that was run out of Lansing, Michigan. I know this firsthand because the zoning commission would not let them buy homes around them to expand. They could not grow where they were. Preacher's name was Ron Otto, North Lansing Christian Church. I was there about 12 years ago. The problem is when zoning commissions are appointed rather than elected. As I have observed in all levels of government, when people are appointed or even elected, they tend to assume they are more intelligent than those who are not and can decide for us what they think is best rather than what we want. I could give you a half a dozen other examples in addition to the church in Lansing, where zoning commissions overruled the one community in northeast Ohio that would not allow the red roof inn to put a red roof on their building because they didn't want red roofs in that district. When people are allowed that kind of control, I'll trust my neighbor more than I will trust a government commission.
Anyone else? Be here all night. Be ready.
Number one, excuse me for being late. Mark Barkley, 3215 West Coast Highway, University property. I was out working in the field for the first time this year, so I'm a little waiting, a little bit dusty. Some of the things that you were told by the attorney is we need to protect the property value. I've already talked to a bank using present value of money